Our experts, David Pabst, Senior Solutions Director, and Todd Brown, Capital Planning Architect, will showcase the capabilities of Alithya's CPP Accelerator and more. Please feel free to submit any questions in the Q&A chat throughout today's presentation, and I'll turn it over now to David here to get us started.
Welcome to our webinar. As Mary said, my name is David Pabst. I'm a solutions architect here at Alithya. And I'll start out by saying I remember when I led a financial systems team earlier in my career, I would have to fill out a capital request form to ask for funding to do the different projects on behalf of my internal customers. And I remember the frustration of filling out that Word form and emailing it to somebody and just not knowing where I stood in the process of getting funding and helping it get it prioritized in the organization. So Todd and I are really excited to talk about our accelerator that can help streamline the whole capital request process. I work with a lot of customers around budgeting and forecasting best practices. Recently wrote a book on the 9 principles of agile planning on how to create a framework that can be a sustainable framework for budgeting and forecasting in your organization. With that, I'm joined by Todd. Todd, you want to say hi?
Thank you, David. Yeah. So I'm Todd Brown. Been working with David for a long time, 11 years in the consulting space. About 5-6 years ago, me and David had incubated this capital portfolio planning model after some of the stuff that we've been seeing in the marketplace across industries. I have also lived this just like David. My previous career was as an accountant and managing capital projects inside the organization. I've been about 15 years in the EPM space, and I'm a regular speaker at Kscope. Pass it back to you, David.
A little bit about our organization Todd and I work for. We work for Alithya, which means truth in ancient Greek, and we take that to heart. We have over 4,000 employees at our publicly traded company. We focus on all manner of digital transformation consulting, everything from strategic consulting, app modernization, adoption, change management. Todd and I are so really lucky to work in one of the largest and premier consultancies focused on Oracle business applications. So there's over 350 of us in North America focused on really 3 product stacks. So the Oracle Enterprise Resource Planning, which is your general ledger, accounts payable, AR, fixed assets, sort of back office tools. The human capital management set of tools, so things like payroll, talent, recruiting, benefits. And then where Todd and I really focus is within the enterprise performance management capability. So if you need any services around digital transformation or Oracle business applications, please reach out to us. So to get into our webinar today, I love this picture. Do you feel like you're carrying a boulder trying to manage your capital program? Todd and I always talk about, we go into organization, it's sort of ironic that people are managing hundreds of millions of dollars to billions of dollars, investing in new technology, new warehouses, new everything, but they're managing the process in Excel. It's very frustrating for people like myself in my past life, having to fill out a capital request form, submit it, try to get it prioritized, and it goes into a black hole. But it's also conversely for the people in finance that are receiving those capital requests and trying to shepherd the capital program through its life cycle, it is very frustrating. And what we're really excited about is that we've actually created a solution using the Oracle Enterprise Performance Management Cloud that really can manage the whole life cycle of your capital request process. We can we'll start with the end in mind. We can modernize and transform your capital programming process. And, we see it time and time again. I mean, there's always, it's just crazy how people are managing these large dollar amounts using Excel and Word and SharePoint and trying to prioritize and distribute capital. One organization we recently worked with actually had the budget to spend over $2 billion of capital a year, but really were frustrated with even getting that capital prioritized and out the door and projects started. And with that, we've actually partnered with Oracle to create this capital programming accelerator. It's really unique in the market, and it fits a niche, really connecting your back office part of your organization. So being able to open POs and pay invoices and account for your projects, along with the execution side, which is, hey, I have all these people, different project managers in construction or facilities or IT. that are trying to execute in the organization. This accelerator, it's used by many large and complex organizations. A couple $100 million of capital spending on up into the billions of dollars. And if you want to learn more, this accelerator, which just works with the Oracle EPM Planning Cloud, is available in the Oracle Cloud Marketplace. So our talk today, we'll do a couple just challenges we see, and hopefully these resonate, that we see around capital programming in large organizations. Todd is going to do a demo. We'll go into the application and walk you through some of the highlights, and then we'll wrap up with some case studies from 2 clients that have adopted the accelerator. So I got to thank ChatGPT and Dolly for these icons, but I think it sort of tells the story, right? I mean, if you're managing multi-billion-dollar capital programs in Excel, in Word, it's frustrating for everyone. And some of the challenges we see, I think they really boil down into 4 major pillars. So we talked about, just the churn of trying to manage everything through Word, Excel, passing documents back and forth, in the iteration process. When you have everyone that's participating in the creation of a capital request, building up the justifications around it, and then soliciting feedback through the different levels in the organization, from your first level reviewers up to your capital committees, up to your board of directors, getting everyone into a cloud-based tool, getting rid of the paper can just have huge benefits in making sure everyone's working from the same playbook. And if you scale that out to, hey, we got 100 different requests or 400 different requests, it can make a big difference, both for the internal just quality of life for everyone involved, as well as making sure the company doesn't make a bad investment decision, right? One bad investment, could be worth millions of dollars, or authorizing a project to start. The other piece is when everyone's working in Excel or Word around their capital programs and what they need to invest in, we find that people are sort of get tunnel vision, and they're really focused on, hey, what are the projects and investments they need to make this year or next year? And they lose sort of that long-term vision of, hey, what are other pieces of equipment we need to replace over the next couple of years? What kind of strategic investments we want to make? What kind of remodels, refreshes, those kinds of things sort of get lost, and people will track them in spreadsheets, but it's not really there for the organization to mine and look way out to say, hey, what does our capital need footprint over the next 5 years look like? So getting everyone working in a tool like this that's in the cloud, now we can start to have everyone put in their known investments for the next year, but also what do they think they're going to need to do over the next couple of years. And now the organization can start to look at what's important, how much can we afford, what can we accelerate. And then ultimately, if you don't have a system, just the struggle between managing what's been approved and then what's actually been spent from a procurement perspective, and bridging those 2 worlds together. This accelerator bridges those 2 worlds together and really will facilitate, the monitoring of the capital program, creating your briefing packages, letting everyone know where they stand around the capital budget and the health of their capital programs. The tool will bring all of those different perspectives together. A lot of the challenges and how we go about solving them actually came from an article Todd and I wrote a couple months ago. So if you're interested in sort of going deeper on that track of what we see and how we solve it, I encourage you to check out this article. All right, so we partnered with Oracle to develop this capital portfolio planning accelerator, and it's really the 2 pieces. So Alithya, you're getting the value of all the projects that have come before. We're using standard Oracle EPM Cloud Planning capabilities to create this business process. So we do everything from capturing capital investment requests, allowing all your frontline managers in the organization to build up their investment roadmaps. We call it a sandbox. Take their capital requests and submit them into prioritization workflows, so you can work them through different parts of the organization, ultimately to gain approval of, hey, this is the set of capital investments we want to make. We support both budget setting, so what are the budgets for all the different parts of the organization, and then we're really proud of the drawdown feature. So it's one thing that if someone has a budget to execute a capital project. The other side of, hey, 6-12 months later, when they're ready to start, is it really something the organization still wants to do or still can fund? So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whenever someone's ready to actually initiate a capital project, they will come to this tool, submit a capital request saying, I'm ready to start, and note where the money is going to come from. And if it gets approved, it actually sends a message to your procurement tool to say, hey, it's time to set up that capital project. And here's the budget that people can procure against. Conversely, we build up an interface from your procurement tool back into this tool so that we can keep an eye on what are the open POs against each capital project and what's also been paid out from expense perspective. So in this one tool, you have the budget for each of your capital projects, what's been committed from a PO perspective, and what's been paid out, and you can monitor the health of the project and manage it from there. And then each manager in the organization gets a personal investment roadmap that they can build up. Hey, this is the things that I know I need to do versus having, your IT manager, your facilities manager, your ops manager, all managing those different investment roadmaps and Excel spreadsheets on their computers. It's better to get them, and we really push to say, hey, now you have this vessel to do your portfolio management for your part of the business. And Oracle gives us the platform. So it's in the cloud. It's really the leader in the space. So Gartner, if you've never taken a look at cloud-based planning technologies, Oracle is in the top right. It's a leader. And where it's killer for this use case is it allows us to just deploy it to all your frontline managers in the cloud. So everyone, anyone that might have to request capital, your site managers, your facility managers, and so on, they can just access this tool. It's very easy to use. We've spent a lot of time to get the user experience very easy. So they can just open it up on a tablet or a phone or on their laptop and submit their capital request or monitor their capital budget. And we focus on making sure that it requires minimal training. They can just go in and submit their capital and manage their capital budgets. And then for finance type people that want to, work, in Excel or the Microsoft Office products, the platform allows us to let those, the power users to actually work within Excel like they're used to. So we're able to support both user experiences. And if you've not worked with Oracle EPM Cloud Planning, the beauty of it is it's a modular cloud-based planning platform that can be tailored to supporting budgeting and forecasting for each part of the organization. So everyone's working in a common tool, common database, but you can support configurable planning for finance, for construction, for real estate, for sales, marketing, IT, so on. Everyone can do their independent styles of budgeting and forecasting, but it all comes together in one tool. So that's why we've leveraged it for this capital portfolio planning, because it is so easy to deploy this solution to everyone that might have to enter a capital request in the organization. If you can get everyone to start thinking about their capital investments, putting them into their capital investment sandboxes, now the organization from like a treasury capital strategy perspective can actually start to mine that information, say, hey, what do we really want to do over the next couple of years? It's really easy to understand what you need to do in the short term, from a committed capital investment, and then you have all the different requests that people have submitted into the workflow. So that gets you a little bit farther out from a capital planning and forecasting perspective. But the part that you really want to start thinking about is what is all the other stuff that we want to do from a master facilities plan, building new sites, introducing new products, and so on. So by having this portfolio management capability, we can start to let the organization build out a strategic capital pipeline and start to study that from a perspective of what can we afford, can we accelerate things, what do we want to invest in, and start to take a more long-term strategic portfolio view to all the capital spending in the organization. And with that, I think I'm going to hand it off to Todd to actually open it up and give you guys a walkthrough.
Thank you, David. So I'm going to walk you through some of the features that David has brought up in our CPP solution that we've built, and so I'll show you some of the features live with inside of our demo application. So again, it's built on the Oracle EPM platform. So we're using the navigation flow as Oracle has designed for us. In here we have different cards. So submitting a project. So you're submitting a project that you want to consider for budgeting purposes. funding a project, if you want to draw down those funds from the budget, monitoring the projects. So looking at that budget versus actual for across all your projects. And then we have a separate workflow, like an approvals workflow, as the whether you're submitting it for the budget or whether you're submitting to fund a project, we have a workflow that we've built with inside the tool. So I'm going to start with submitting projects. As David had said, we have this area called the sandbox, which is really it's the area for all those frontline managers to build out their long-term plans. They can build out stuff that's 4 or 5, up to 10 years out in the future. They might not be considered for this budget cycle, but they could be considered for future budget cycles. It's as simple as basically creating a request. We ask them to fill out some information, what cost center this is going to be, this is being requested from, what type of project it is. This generates different rows and different requirements based on the what has to be completed for the person requesting the funds. They put in a title, a potential start date, and end date. And then we have this concept of checkbooks. It's really just a more granular level of the capital budget. So is this a growth project? Is this a productivity project, or is this a maintenance project? And then we have a series of screens where they have to answer questions. I'm not going to go through that now, but I can show you some of the forms that these create. So once you're done those series of screens, then a request is basically added into your sandbox. Then what you do is you have a series of forms. So we have a properties form. So this is just gathering some of that textual information, the dates, some like reporting attributes that we might want on there. This is where you're also tagging it if it needs to be reviewed by IT or construction. So, some of those projects like, oh, I want to install these new whatever, this probably has an IT component because everything is now connected and wired. So, you can flag these requests as saying, oh, I want IT to review this project before it gets set into the budget or before it gets basically authorized. Start and end dates, and then we calculate a bunch of financial metrics. So that's the properties form. We also have a qualitative questions form. So this is just asking questions. Does this need an environmental review? Does this need, you can basically customize all of these questions that you're asking the users. And these are kind of like, it's a front end setting. So, the administrator might come in year after year and say, oh, we need to ask them about this for these types of requests for this year. Then we get into the project expenditure. So it doesn't have that many rows, but that one doesn't have many rows either. Let's see this one. Oh, well, usually this has many more rows. So on this project expenditures tab, again, the rows are generated based on the project type that you select. So you might open up different capital expenditure categories depending on the type of project. You might also open up different project expenditures. So really those OpEx amounts that are related to a project that won't necessarily be capitalized. So project manager time, internal development resources, all depends on how you want to capitalize it. So that's really the cost of the project or the outflows. The other thing that we have is the operational impact form. Actually, I'm going to just pull that's a little bit better here. So the operational impact is really saying what is it? How is this going to impact the organization? So is it going to impact revenue? Is it going to impact our expenses? This also calculates all the depreciation on the project, and it also calculates the capital asset balances. Then what we do is that we can combine all of these forms into basically a single pro forma. So this is a report, a printable report that you can actually send out. So again, this is showing like all that information that we entered in those forms with the project expenditure, with basically the operating impact, and then we're calculating the metrics like the payback years, the internal rate of return, etc. And this is a PDF report, so this can be emailed out to anybody that might want to review it. So this process right here, which I've been showing, is replacing those forms, those Word, Excel forms that eventually go to somebody where they have to compile all of this information and, and get a total. Like how much are we setting for the capital budget next year, or what projects are we funding? So we really replaced that manual Excel-based process. Then what we can do is we can actually submit these into workflow. So you can promote it up to the next level that needs to get approval. So you just hit save, and then it goes up to the next level of approval. What's also nice with this sandbox mode is that we've also given users the ability to see where all their requests are within inside workflow. So even though it leaves their sandbox view, they can actually still monitor. Pardon me. They can actually still monitor where all the requests are on workflow, so they can see all of the requests and see where it's hitting within inside the organization, all the way up until it's actually approved. So that's it around that sort of like pro forma, those request forms, and how we've basically replaced them with inside Oracle EPM. Now, the workflow, if you notice, it's a little bit different than the traditional EPM workflow, where you're actually submitting individual packages or individual projects inside the workflow. And we've using Oracle's REST API, we can actually generate approval emails. So this email has gone out saying this request is going through, this person is trying to, in this case, add it to the capital budget for next year. The director is then given a link. They can click on that link, and then it goes directly to an approvals form where they can see all of the requests that they need, for all the cost centers that they oversee, and they can see all of the requests. And then we're doing validation on those requests as well, saying, yeah, all of these are ready to promote. This one in particular, procurement needs to review, and this one in particular, there's multiple cross departments that need to review it. All of the forms that we completed in the sandbox are available to those people in the workflow, those people that are going to approve it, and they also then can promote the individual product. They can also do multiple at the same time. Now, regarding those cross-functional reviews, those people have also received an email, and they also have a link that's going to go directly into a separate screen. So these are all the requests that require a procurement review. So until procurement has reviewed these, that workflow one person cannot promote. Once they have been reviewed, then procurement's like, okay, this one's fine, this one's good, or I might need more information in order to approve this. Then, the workflow one now can promote that past this step. So the way that I think about cross-functional reviews, they're really a horizontal workflow inside the organization. So rather than just going up the organization, you can also inform other parts of the organization that these projects are coming. So IT can get a sense saying, hey, there's way too many projects that are impacting IT. We need to either ramp up our staffing, or we might need to delay some of these projects. And so right now we support up to 5 workflow steps. This is configurable. Some clients are only using 4. Some clients are using 6, but it's highly configurable dependent on the organization. Inside the workflow, we have created some. So usually at some point in the workflow, it comes to like a capital lead person, somebody who's really going to be the quarterback through the rest of the organization. And then so what we've done is created these dashboards where that capital lead person can start looking at all of the requests, and then start modeling out, saying, okay, so this red section is really these are all the capital requests or the capital budget that we've already approved. If I start approving more of these, or if more of these go through, the blue line is really saying this is how much in addition that we're going to spend in capital. So because you can see, like, capital planning in general is a multi-year. Projects are multi-year in nature. So we need to see how is this going to change our capital budget over the years, and also down here, how is it going to change our capital investment mix? So during that workflow cycle, we provide that capital lead person just a way of sort of modeling out, saying, how is my capital budget going to be impacted? So one our ideas on what we're going to do next year, what we do is we create this thing called the checkbook, which is really your overall capital budget. And we keep track. We keep track of everything that set that capital budget. So we can see here's all the projects that set that capital budget that we planned on doing. And then once you get into the year, then people can then start to fund those projects. So that the same user or potentially somebody else comes in, and then now they want to fund those projects that they planned. So we're using similar functionality that we did to submit project, but these are now funding. So what we can do is we can see any of those budget requests that were approved. Some of them have already been converted, some of them were approved, some of them were canceled, and then we can convert those budget requests into funding requests, or basically request the funding on the project so I can actually start cutting POs. Submitting a project is just really the planning process, but really funding a project is allowing the person to cut POs, engage contractors and things like that. So we've broken up the process into two steps. And what this allows is that the organization can reprioritize what projects they want to fund during the year and not just sticking to their original plan necessarily. So we have a separate sandbox. The users then can update any numbers. So if the costs have increased or the business requires additional justification when they're actually funding a project, we can support that here by adding additional properties to the properties form. The people submitting projects can update the expenditures, how has the expenditures actually increased on this project. They can update those numbers here again before submitting it into workflow. One thing I failed to note, actually, it's over here, to show is that we also capture all the approvals. So any of these requests, you can actually see all the approval history. So we're actually keeping track, who submitted it, who promoted it, when did they promote, and we're tracking that all the way through. So we're really tracking who submitted the project, when were the projects funded, who approved the funding of the projects. Once the projects are completely funded, that's what David was saying, we can send those approved budgets to your procure to pay system. If you have budgetary control enabled, we can also send those budgets to project execution tools. So Smartsheets, Procore, Primavera, whatever tools that the organization use, we can send those approved budgets into those tools, and then the people those different parts of the organization can break down those budgets into that task level of execution of a project. Once a project is approved, it then gets added to this. Well, first of all, what it does is that it actually draws down that capital checkbook. So as I was showing you before, this is everything that we've budgeted, but we actually keep track of everything that we've funded. So we can see all of the projects that we've funded out of the capital budget, and then we start monitoring, saying, okay, how much of the basically the unallocated or uncommitted funds do we have in those the capital budget, and we have it over the years. So now we're monitoring the capital budget from what did we plan and what did we fund. So all of the capital projects that have basically been approved get added to this dashboard, the active project dashboard. They all get assigned a project number, and that's the project number that's used by all of the tools, procure to pay, project execution tools. We're also tracking by cost center. So since it's by cost center, any of the managers that come in or the directors that come in would only see the projects that pertain to their area. We're kind of showing a few things, so group division, project end date. This is all highly configurable. We're also looking at the budget status and the schedule status, so you can have project managers coming in here and flagging the status of projects. We're looking at sort of the near completion flag, so basically how close is this to the project being finished. And then over here, we're starting to see the financials. So we're saying, how much was this project planned for during the budget cycle? How much money have we actually given to the project, initially on the initial funding? And then as well, has there been any change orders? How much additional funding have we authorized in this project? You might be able to see problems here where, project was funded for 56 million, and now you have $100 million change order. So you start monitoring those things inside this dashboard. We also then load the project spend, the project commits, and if you want, project accruals. So now we're starting to monitor, saying, okay, here's what we've funded, here's what we've actually spent, here's what we've committed on this, and where we're going to end up on this project ultimately. We also allow project managers to enter an estimate to complete. So if, for example, here, if they have $286,000 of available funds, 300,000 is already open commit. So they're going to be over if they actually spend all their commitments. But the project manager came in and said, well, actually, I think it's going to be more like 400,000 to actually finish this project. So we're kind of flagging it orange, like it's going over, and we determine different thresholds. So this is between like the 5 to 20% threshold. If it's going to go way over, then we flag it red. So you can quickly see all the projects in the organization and how well they're actually performing against their actuals. Every project has their own like mini financial statement. So we track everything that's happened on the project. Again, it's kind of pivoting those columns, saying how much it was planned for, how much has been funded. We do support carry forward. So if everything wasn't funded in a year, we can carry forward to the next year. We also do support like cash flow adjustments, or basically reforecasting a project if you know that the outflows are going to be a little bit different. As well as the close cancel. So if the project is closed, it has additional funding, we close it out, the funds then get released back to the checkbook, or potentially a project was partway through or not started and basically gets canceled and it'll release funds back to checkbook. Some of the just before I end, I'm going to show you some of the dashboarding that we have. So on the checkbook side, sorry. On the checkbook side, what we have is, and that's basically the overall project budget. And this is more like executive reporting. So that was our original budget. Here's our budget just for 22. This is how much has been assigned to project. This is the amount that's unassigned. And this is the available balance. We can monitor different checkbooks and what their current balance is. We can monitor basically what was planned inside this area, what has been funded, and what are the actuals that have actually went out the door. On the project side, we have a similar dashboard where it's like, okay, here's everything we funded. Here's how much money we've spent. This is how much money is committed. This is by those strategic categories. This is how much we're spending on maintenance, strategic, and compliance. And then this is looking at like, what are the biggest projects that are in flight right now. And then we also created like a printable report on each of the projects. So from the project, you can actually have sort of that one pager to see what's going on this project from an actual versus spend perspective. And I guess the last piece is just around the strategic capital planning. So again, if people are building up their capital investment roadmaps inside their sandbox, a capital lead can come in and start pulling in and saying, hey, I'm going to pull some of these projects into like a long range plan, and I'm going to see what this actually is going to do to my overall capital budget, and what kind of, and this is just a graph just showing like what's the size of the project and what's the return on investment, like which one should we be considering doing and which ones we shouldn't. So again, if we have those department users building out their long range plan, we can then start pulling them into like a really strategic capital plan and seeing what's going to happen much further down the road. So that was a quick demo of the features of CPP. And with that, I'll hand it back over to David.
Thank you, Todd. For the last part of today's session, we'll just talk about 2 case studies. One organization that adopted this solution is a large airport authority that's managing a $2 billion capital program. So if you think about an airport, they have certainly equipment purchases, they got to buy fire trucks, they have to buy all manner of machine, and then they have even things like facility maintenance type of capital requests, like remodeling a bathroom, to everything to building terminals and rental car facilities. So a lot going on in an airport. And when we started working with this organization, they had 2 of the 3 pieces of the puzzle that they need. They were doing a good job about keeping track of their capital project costs within their PeopleSoft project accounting system, and they were using Primavera on the execution and construction side to do a good job on forecasting what it would take to complete their projects. But those 2 worlds weren't really talking, and so that's what the capital portfolio planning solution was able to bring to the table, which was to get everyone into one tool to submit their capital requests, let the organization work through the prioritization process of what could they afford and which projects should they take on, as well as keeping an eye on the financial health of all the in-flight projects. And they were managing over 400 projects at one time, and they always had like a flow of 100 ending and 100 new ones coming on, and just trying to rank stack and prioritize all of them while everyone was sending in literal word-based request forms to a person within finance. So by adopting the planning technology, we were able to link their project accounting tool along with their project execution tool, Primavera. So they had one integrated capital planning process. They were able to capture requests, build and generate investment packs automatically. This organization actually takes the output of the capital programming tool and publishes it on their website since they're a public entity. And then they were really being a quasi public entity, and the source of funds is very important to them. So in some organizations, knowing how you're going to pay for these different capital projects is critically important. So if you're going to issue debt, you have to use that debt for what you said you were going to use it for. If you ask the government to fund and provide grants, that's very important, as well as there's a lot of rules on if you're going to collect passenger fees for landing or other kind of operating fees, that you have to align those to the capital investments and use it for what you said you were going to use it for. So we're able to bring it all together, and then ultimately they're able to report in real time on the health of the capital program and link all those three different perspectives together. Another organization that we deployed this for is a rapidly growing retail chain that's managing a $150 million capital program with 400 locations. And if you think of a retailer, they really have four pillars of capital spend. They certainly have their site and real estate costs to build out new locations and to fit them out with all the equipment. They have remodeling costs. So, hey, we want to keep our locations fresh and current. So there's always sort of that churn going on. And then the third piece is technology spend. So if you think of a retailer, everyone's got their mobile apps and loyalty programs. So there's a lot of capital spending on the technology side in these organizations. And then the final pillar, this one has a whole distribution arm. So all the product they put out into their different locations has to come into their warehouse system. They have a set of trucks that go and deliver it and bring the product to their different sites. So four different pillars of capital. Everything was being managed within Microsoft Word. And there was, when Todd and I went to meet with them, they had one big spreadsheet. Someone in finance was trying to put all the capital requests into the spreadsheet, trying to download the spend from their procurement tool and do all the reporting the organization needed in Excel. So it was internal customers were frustrated. Finance was frustrated because it's not fun, like managing these large spreadsheets and data diving and trying to keep everyone happy. It was very difficult for them to redeploy and reprioritize capital throughout the year. So we deployed the capital portfolio planning solution that Todd just showed you using the Oracle Planning Cloud platform, and we integrated very tightly with their SAP procurement tool. So we would send, when a project was approved, we would send SAP a message saying, hey, there's a new project and there's a new budget. People could go start procuring against it. And then conversely, as people open POs and spent against those capital projects, we would be informed on the financial status of those projects. So it's a symbiotic loop with their procurement tool. And so ultimately, they got to a place where all their capital budgets and capital projects were managed online in the cloud. All that Excel and Word and emailing and went away. And everyone in the organization, from the C-level on down to their different leaders in the different parts of the organization, were able to go to this tool when they wanted to ask for money. And then finance was able to keep, shepherd the process, take all the investment requests to the different capital committees within the organization, as well as maintain control and governance over the capital program. And with that, I want to thank you for your time and joining us. If you'd like to learn more about our capital planning solution, feel free to email at infosolutions@alithya.com, as well as reach out to Todd and myself. We do have a capital programming learning kit on our site. So if you scan the QR code, it'll take you to a repository of articles, how-tos, demos of what Todd showed you today, and as well as some leading practices. And with that, I'll hand it back to Mary.
Thank you, David. It doesn't look like we have any additional questions today, so thank you all very much for attending our webinar. Please check out our website and follow us on LinkedIn at Alithya Digital Cafe to stay up to date on our upcoming webinars, events, and more.